Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is kind of a different kind of video. I'm going to talk about cult behavior within political parties. So how this works in this particular behavior, or in this particular societal structure, it only is a model applicable to a two-party system, which means America, Britain, and in any particular system that has a runoff kind of scenario. So what happens here? The United States has approximately, 2,500 parties, something like that, and only a dozen operate on a national level, or multiple states. So these parties are Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Greens, Socialists, Constitution, a few others. So what happens here? Cult behavior is an indicator that basically states that if I am part of one group, I will only approve of people that are part of that same group. So it's the same in-group bias mentality that we saw with racial demographics, but we also have that within social spheres, we have that within economic spheres, we have that with political views, we have that with basically everything. People like members of their own group. They disapprove of members that aren't of their group. And I'm going to show you that quickly with the approval of the Democrat Party and the Republican Party respectively. So here we have the Democratic Party. Nice little chart. The unfavorable rating at the moment is 55%. This is Civiqs, so it's an internet poll, so basically easy to manipulate. Point still stands. So it's about nationally viewing 38% positive, 55% negative, and 7% neutral. So if you go and look at the Democrats, we expect majority approval, right? Well, that's true. 82% positive, and a total of 17 and probably a 17.4%, something like that, being negative or neutral. So what does this mean? 82% approve of their party regardless of what they're doing. And we can look at this within the demographic sphere. So regarding racial categories, Hispanics and others don't like them. Why is that? Hispanics are pretty much anti-socialism, and the Democrat Party is swiftly moving towards that direction, so Hispanics disapprove of that. Same goes with particular Asian categories, such as Vietnamese, such as Filipinos, Indonesians. Pretty much anyone that has lived under socialism disapproves of it. Therefore, you will find that this particular category is going to disapprove of it. Now we find pretty much else the young people don't agree with it. Why is that? Because the young people want universal health care, they want basically all these socialist programs you can imagine, they want that, and that's why they disapprove. Old people still think of the old party like how it was under Kennedy, and they think, oh yeah, this never changed, right? Completely wrong about that, but that's a different story. So basically what this means is that most partisans don't dare to either disagree with their in-party, but you don't dare to criticize it either. And because they're criticizing it, that would move you to the unsure or unfavorable categories in this particular case. The reason why I dislike this methodology is because there is no separate line for strongly approve and somewhat approve. So basically it's just you approve, or it's not approval, therefore it doesn't matter how strong your approval is. I disagree with this metric, and that's why I prefer things like Rasmussen and other stations, because they would also provide a metric of strength. Let's go to Republicans. We expect this to be completely reversed, of course. Why is it? Because partisanship, right? So 3% positive, 1% neutral, 96% negative. As expected. Republicans don't like Democrats. Easy, right? So we look at this among the demographics, pretty much universal except with black. Looking at exit polling, you know exactly why. How about independents? 66% negative. So it's pretty much universally hated. So we look at the characteristics. Once again, young people don't like the Democratic Party. Old people, a little more. When it comes to non-college graduates, they hate at college, yes, pretty much okay. Racial categories, most of black people that aren't affiliated with a political party approve of the Democrats. Gee, I wonder why. So we have a universal baseline in this particular case. Let's move to the Republicans. About the same level of approval and disapproval. Let me check for certainty. 55% unfavorable against 63 at the moment. Now, that's understandable. Why is it? Because it's a split control of the House, of the Congress. Democrats control the Senate, Republicans control the House, and because Republicans control the House, basically nothing is getting done, therefore Republicans have a higher disapproval rating. Now, if we go prior to the midterms, we'll find, let's say about here, 58, the average would be about 58, 59%. Go to the Democrats, prior to the midterms, average 55, 54. So that would be contributed to by, let's say, media bias, which is objective. So we find here Republicans approve of it, Democrats don't, independents don't, and racial categories we find the same story. How about Democrat? We expect majority disapproval, correct, 96%. So it's an equal strength of opposing one another's party. Pretty much obvious. The difference between the two would be how favorable they view one another. Republicans are more positive about the Democrat parties than the Democrats are over the Republican Party. And it's probably as a little nod saying like, oh yeah, we can easily win from you, therefore we approve of the things you're doing because we're winning. Which results in partisanship once again. In-party Republican approval, 68%. This is the kicker. Democrats was 82%, Republicans is 68% for their own party, respectively. So what do we have here? This means, effectively, that Republicans are more willing to criticize their own party. They're more willing to disagree with the thing their leadership is doing. They're more able to speak out against policies they disagree with. This is basically the thing we have here. So in terms of strength, I would simply say the Republican Party is a small cult, or a cult that has a strength of, let's say, 6 out of 10. And the Democrats is a cult that has a strength of 8 out of 10. Because this measure would be simply saying the number we put before is an incremented one for every 10% of approval you have. So 6.8, we can call 6, we can call it a 7 out of 10. And the other side is 82%, so we call it an 8 out of 10. Regardless. Kind of what your metric is. Well, in the case of statistics, I would say round up in all cases. So in this particular case, we find that the Democratic Party is a slightly stronger of a cult mentality. How about independents? We find 68% disapprove, which is about the same size as it is of the Democrats. Approval rating is lower at this particular moment, and that's because, simply put, here you go, control of the House, which means more criticism, more sunlight as disinfectant for the particular behavior, and as a result you'll find disapproval. Young people disapprove of it more. Why is it? Because they're more socialist inclined to the propaganda. Old people are approving it slightly more. Why is it? Because they're still thinking of the old political party. That is, let's say, the party of Ronald Reagan. That's what they're still thinking of. Finally, racial demographics. Surprise, surprise. Basically what this means is approval rating is kind of an indicator of how much of a cult mentality there is. So, last one, that I think is relevant here, and that's particularly look at the president and the way his approval is going. So, minus 12, as expected a bit. So, Democrats, 81% approval, of course. Like we previously distinguished. So, the 9% that disapprove comes mostly from young people, and that's more in the case of, let's say, socialist perspectives. So we can go for it on a state basis. Democrats, basically everywhere is a positive approval rating. Republicans, it is all negative, as expected, 95% negative, as expected. We move on to this particular metric and we'll find it's universal with, except, the obvious one. How about independence? And this is where the important thing shines. So we have the same. I'm not going to repeat myself like a fucking record at this particular point, but you get the gist. And I will find 60% disapproval rating. How about each state? Only a positive one in Vermont. Gee. Wonder why. Ohio, negative 36. West Virginia, negative 44. You have Montana. Georgia. So let's say, we have the three most important Senate races, I would say, in a 24 cycle. West Virginia, Ohio, and Montana. Guess what? If that independent rating is going to be negative whatever, it's going to be an uphill climb for the Democrat incumbents there. And of the three incumbents, which are all running, pretty sure, I don't think Manchin is going to run for president. And I think, I need to check this, but I think West Virginia has term limits, which means that he isn't allowed to run for governor anymore, because he's already been governor for 2 terms. Which means that either he's going to retire or he's going to run for re-election. In which particular case, if he runs for re-election, there's a 90% chance he's going to lose. In a state that is Biden negative 44, there's no fucking way that he's going to hold on to independence. Especially if Republicans start pointing out the obvious, that Joe Manchin votes 90% of the time in favor of the Democrat policy, regardless of what it is, and therefore a little difficult to convince independents for the fact that he's working for the West Virginian man. Same thing goes here for Ohio. It's a bit tougher of a sell for Sherrod Brown at this particular point. He used to be more of a moderate type of guy, but now he's just a Democrat yes man. Regardless of politics, he's going to vote for it, whatever he wants. Montana, same thing. John Tester, he pretends to be a conservative Democrat, but he is not. Don't even be fooled by it. That's what I recommend. So I'm going to finish this one up, and I don't think I have anything else to particularly discuss on this particular issue. How about statewide? No, national. So everything is combined. We find Massachusetts, of course. Vermont, New York, just barely. Maryland, Illinois, Washington, and California. So pretty much any state that here is indicated in the red, or the orange, you'll find that it's going to be a particularly uphill battle for the Democrats in 2024 to even remotely win. And I take this into account with my models regarding independent vote splits. So, this is essentially it. Political parties behave like cults. Who would have thunk it? And my remedy for this is simply this. Ban them all. Just as the way God intended. Just as the way our founding fathers intended. They didn't want political parties in the first place. Simply put, now we're bothering about the color which represents each candidate. We're talking about the letter behind their name, and we dislike the policy they're proposing because they have a particular letter there. They are a Democrat, therefore I oppose it. Or they're a Republican, therefore I oppose it. That, in itself, is damaging to democracy, to the democratic process. And the moment we step away from groupthink, the moment we step away from cult behavior, is the moment where democracy starts to shine again. So that is my effective 2 cents in this particular case, and there's not much else to talk about. Love to hear your thoughts on this particular matter, because that's what we're all here for, right? This is nothing more than a channel for conversations. Cheers. I'm gonna refill this one because I'm getting thirsty again, and it's a little bit of a remedy for the throat when you're talking this much. Thank you kindly, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you next time. Cheers.